Aloha and welcome to Faith in Politics, where we aim to discuss politics through the lens of faith, both here in Hawaii and around the world. I'm Brennan Scarborough, your host. In this program, is the God of the Bible the author of slavery? Mac McKeithen discusses how this has become a hot topic on many platforms, including the church. Jack Hibbs fills us in on the controversial Prop 1 bill in California. Will a similar bill hit us here in Hawaii? But first, we start this episode with a conversation on a new documentary released just this week by Candace Owens about Black Lives Matter and the millions of donations raised. Mac McKeithen, Leo Rodas, and Daniel Molina discuss the film and its implications. Let's join in on that conversation.
On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd tries to use counterfeit money, gets arrested, and dies in the hands of the local police. The BLM movement rises to take advantage of this terrible situation, ultimately raises $80 million from individuals and corporations, including Hollywood elites, political elites. Social media explodes. Virtual signaling, right? If you don't put a black box on your social media, then you're a racist, right? Video of white people and Democratic leaders on their knees saying, "I'm sorry" to the black community. Riots, sadly, communities destroyed, leaving it worse off than it was before. So today, 2.5 years later, with $80 million, BLM is under scrutiny for being fraudulent. In fact, BLM is fracturing. There's 26 local chapters that are suing the main chapter, which I find really interesting. And as we're filming this, there's a new documentary called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, and it premieres this week. And again, it follows the money, and we see what really is actually going on. So guys, let's watch the trailer, and then we'll discuss it.
Sounds good. So Black Lives Matter released their 990 IRS filings. They collected $80 million. Where is that money?
It's not here. Everything looks worse than it was.
Where have you seen that money impacted throughout the city? So my producer just sent me a link. It is just shocking to me because of how much money was raised to think that where he lived, the bills weren't being covered. Super frustrating, but that's a dead end, so. And here's where it gets really interesting. Ready for some BLM pride? Another $200K went to escorts, BDSM workers, strippers, peep show workers, phone sex operators, and webcam performers. And then at that moment, it became personal. And I thought, not only am I going to say the truth, I am going to scream the truth louder than you can scream the lies.
So Mac, it seems like the black community, well, actually, the world has been hoodwinked. You know, after watching that trailer, what's really going on? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, they always say that the greatest lies ever told has factual data in it. And so there's truth mixed with lies. And no one in their right mind is going to argue with the slogan, Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And off the heels of George Floyd, like you mentioned earlier, all the emotions are high, and then you have the slogan that's already been out there, but now it's amplified, and people cleave to the slogan without even looking at the organization. So we have two variables. You got the slogan, which everyone agrees with, and then you have an organization which hardly anyone looked into. But if you just took time to look into the organization from the beginning, you would have known what it was about from the door. Right. And none of this would really be a surprise.
Yeah. Leo, do you remember that period of time? Black Lives Matter. You would probably agree with that, right?
I definitely remember that period of time. I also acknowledge that the protests happened worldwide. They were all across Europe, and you know, people wanted to stand together in solidarity. And so when you think about this lie and how it was just pushed forward so that everyone would accept it, that's what's really problematic. Yeah. So it's important, like Mac is saying, that we look into these things, and it seems to me from that trailer that they're also encouraging us to do our own work, to do the legwork, to look into it. I would even encourage some family members to maybe even like set up filming, like watching parties. Come over and let's watch it. Let's talk about it. Let's debrief it.
I mean, we can all agree, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but I would say, and you would get in trouble with this if you said this 2.5 years ago, that all lives matter.
Right.
People would get upset with that.
Yes, they
Wait
would.
a minute, why are you upset with that? But what is BLM Incorporated?
They stated early on, since they removed some of the content, but their purpose was to disrupt the nuclear family. Basically, fathers in the family are not necessary. This is what they were implying. They are a Marxist organization that hasn't changed. They push socialistic ideologies, and that's their goal.
And how would you encapsulate a Marxist organization?
Well, basically, it's like this: a system can outthink man. So you put a system in place that's going to take care of everybody, and because man is too ignorant to do so himself.
Right.
And it replaces capitalism. And it tries to put everybody on the same playing field, which will never happen. Because equality is one thing, equity is something totally different. So we can have the same opportunity, but if you make a different decision, it's going to put you on a different trajectory. So it doesn't make sense to try to put everybody, you start off at the same point and you're going to end at the same point. It doesn't happen that way because we all make different choices.
Right.
And so it's a pipe dream. It's a utopia that will never exist here or anywhere else. And anywhere where socialism was practiced and is being practiced, the country is in shambles. And then lastly, they support the LGBTQ community in every respect.
Right.
And that's their goal. So when you look at Black Lives Matter, what portion of their organization is actually geared towards helping Black lives? Look at their website. I don't see it.
Right. Leo, both you and I, we got to see the documentary last night. Did that surprise you about the transgender thing?
Yeah, so let me just kind of speak to what Mac is saying also, is that so this organization will say that they're supporting or they're trying to further the lives of like transgender African Americans, and that's part of the lie itself as well, right? So we did, I had this wonderful opportunity to see the full documentary, and it was eye-opening, especially the fact that no money went back into that community.
Right.
In fact, where George Floyd was living with his roommates at the time of his murder, at the time that he passed away, whatever it was, nothing went back to them. So those roommates, they had to even figure out how to get rid of his vehicle. He had an old, what looked like a PT Cruiser, just kind of abandoned in the driveway. Nothing.
And what surprised me is that there was a lot of personal effects.
Yes.
George Floyd's personal effects.
Yes.
They tried to contact the family, say, "Hey, you guys want this?" No response whatsoever.
Right.
Which really blew me away. I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Even one of the roommates gets emotional speaking about how great it would be for the daughter to come by and to take a look at some of the personal effects, to just come by and say hi. No one from his family. The people that did come out and put their faces out there and say how sad they were to have lost their brother or their father, whatever it was, they have never, to this point, to the filming of this documentary, which was this year, never gone to the house.
The action speaks for itself, or the non-action, should we say. If it tells you exactly what's at the heart of the organization. Again,
Yes.
So you have the slogan, everybody agrees with. The heart of the organization and all their actions are showing you exactly what they're about. And we will know them by their fruits. So what are their fruits? Are they good fruits? We don't see the goodness out of it at all.
I remember when everything was going on, back in 2020, and I remember thinking, I need to see what BLM is about. I went to the website, and exactly what you said, that's what I found. And I remember on social media, a friend's post, it was all about Black Lives Matter, and I said something really simple. I said, you know what? I think that it would really make a lot of sense if you go to the website and really see who these people are, see what BLM is all about. Well, it turned into this huge, it hit the fan.
Really?
Yeah, I got called a racist.
Really?
And these are people who don't know me at all. I've never met them, but they just started attacking me. How could you say that? It's like, how could I say what? Go check it out and make sure. I got slammed. And, to be called a racist is really interesting. When it happened, it really hit me. It was really hard. But what I find really interesting is that social media was a weapon towards
definitely.
that.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, we've got this video of Candace Owens, and she goes and films and she tries to visit a BLM house.
Right.
Right? So let's watch that.
Okay.
And then let's comment on that later.
This morning, I woke up to Candace Owens being outside of my house with a news crew. She was demanding that I come outside.
Hello. I was just looking to speak to whoever is at this property because it's listed as the Black Lives Matter property. Sir? Hello?
The fact that she's came outside my house and demanded things, harassed me, is unacceptable.
We're not trying to harass you. We'll gladly leave. We're just wondering if we can speak to anybody.
Y'all, I really need my family to be safe. I need to be safe. I need my child to be safe. And this, what happened this morning is not safety.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Okay, so it seems like social media, the mainstream media, is really playing to this and really causing people to be, frustrated and, being called out and so forth. What are your thoughts on this?
Social media can reach so many people at once, and to control a narrative, just look at who's in control of the social media. Yeah. And this is one of the things that's so perplexing, especially when we deal with race and we talk about agendas. Because think about it. The people who own the social media platforms, they're white. I mean, have we figured this out yet? Yeah. They own it. And so if they were like, hey, you know what? I don't want to be called racist. I don't really want to be in this category. They would never push that agenda. So it's for a purpose. They're allowing this to happen and pushing it out there, and they own the networks.
Right.
So what does that tell you about those people? They're part of the evil plot.
Yeah. What is the evil? Do you have any idea? Could you comment on that? What do you think the outcome of this is? Why are the white community? I don't want to say white community because it's not really.
No, it's the elites.
So you want to. Why is a white elite trying to cause this type of division?
Right. So it's really important, kind of like what Mac is saying. It's really important to follow that trail to see where it leads us. According to what we found so far, is that it leads all the way back to some strange rooted democratic ideology that aligns with pushing the transgender agenda forward. And yeah, so that should alarm us. That should set off some huge alarm bells, because 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. 30 years ago, we weren't seeing so much acceptance of putting out your sexual preferences on display. For men to be dressed as women in such a provocative way that children are seeing this now, and it makes it okay. So we're over-sexualizing our children. This is a huge problem.
Yeah. So as a person of color, Mac,
does
this help you? Does this, the idea of this movement of transgender ideology, does it help the Black community?
No. So it doesn't help any community. At the end of the day. What you do, your personal preference is your personal preference, but to push it as something that everyone must accept is unacceptable. And ironically, what it's done to the Black community is it's taken what we are. First of all, you look at the role of the father or the man in the Black community. It's already been diminished based off of social ideologies. Now you push this transgender ideology and you feminize all the Black men. Where's the real men at? So you're crushing the community that you say that you want to help and try to protect. And again, it's coming from the elites.
$80 million. How much of that money has gone to Black communities? Anybody?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the point, is that none of it has really gone back to, and again, I tried to narrow it down earlier, even just for a few, whatever it is, a donation, it was like 200,000, I think it was, that the BLM Incorporated was giving all these transgender organizations. Even if it were that went to a scholarship, for like Black Americans to go to college. Right. You don't even see that. The segment that we just saw, the clip that we just saw, where Patrice is essentially crying and making herself out to be this victim. Candace Owens is not she's not banging down the door. She's being very respectful, but Patrice is crying, and she says the movement needs to become stronger around this. And this is just my take, especially, last week we saw that civil beat debate. This is becoming common among the Democratic Party as well. All these affiliates is that you become the victim. You make yourself out to be the victim. And we see that again in Patrice. She gets offended. She says she's so afraid. She says she's afraid for her life and her family's safety. And we see this all across the board. At any time there's something like this that comes up, like you said, you're labeled a racist and everyone's offended. And now you have to issue an apology. It's out of control.
Are you going to watch the documentary? Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. You're watching Faith in Politics. We'll be right back.
I started as an intern at Call TV, and today I'm working full-time running quality control as well as editing. Being a small team, I learned everything from camera work to editing to broadcasting, with the focus on spreading the gospel, being the only local Christian TV station in Hawaii. Our vision is big. That is why I want to ask you to consider being a part of the team by supporting us. Imagine that, working together, broadcasting aloha across Hawaii. Thank you for your financial support that empowers Kalo TV.
Welcome back to Faith in Politics. Gavin Newsom's Prop 1, the birthday abortion proposition, is causing a lot of controversy about late-term abortion. If this bill is passed, will it spread across the country and end up here in Hawaii? Here's Jack Hibbs with the answer.
So listen, this is almost like in the book of Acts, a Macedonian call coming from California. Listen up, everybody. You all know that what happens in California doesn't stay in California. It's going to hit Hawaii like a tidal wave. What is it? It's called Proposition 1. Our governor is trying to change our state constitution so that it will legalize abortion up till birth, and it doesn't even specify regarding after birth. We're calling it the birthday abortion bill, Prop 1. And we have launched a campaign, stopprop1.com. Stopprop1, the number 1.com, to get the word out. Because here's the deal. If it happens in California, we already know that there are states watching to see what happens, liberal states, to see how to get it going in their state. If it succeeds in California by amending the state constitution, then maybe we can amend the constitution in Hawaii, in New Jersey, in New York, and in other places. We're asking you to go to stopprop1.com, pray and help us. And here's the big lift for all of you on the islands. All of you know someone in California. Will you call them, text them, email them? Will you maybe even send them this clip? Because many people don't know. Let them know. As a voice coming from Hawaii back to the mainland, tell your friends, go to stopprop1.com to find out more how we can stop this insanity in Sacramento.
Thanks, Pastor Jack, for that report. Be sure to visit their website. We can get involved in stopping this horrific bill, even from Hawaii. Next up, what does God have to do with slavery? Mac McKeithen clears the air and explores the biblical perspective on slavery. Here's Mac.
Lately, there's been a lot of talk about slavery, especially since the death of Queen Elizabeth II. We hear of this on talk shows, podcasts, social media outlets, schools, primetime news, Congress, the White House, the United Nations, and now here on Kalo. And the blame game regarding slavery is just another tool that is being used to further divide our supposed union here in the United States. And sadly, several unseasoned churches are falling victim to this political rhetoric that has many aligning themselves with a narrative that aims to depict the true and living God as the author of man's sick and evil version of slavery. Secularists have promoted the notion that God never condemned slavery. But the fact is that God never condemned his version of slavery. First of all, in biblical slavery, people sold themselves into slavery as a last resort when they had nothing left to pay off the debt, and so on. And all of those slaves were paid. Biblical slavery was more in line with being an indentured servant. In fact, the term would be bondservant. In other words, you would work off what you owed and the associated debt that was agreed upon in order to earn your freedom back. This is why the nation of Israel did not have any jails and or prisons. In fact, this type of slavery was a part of the law of Moses, and it prohibited man from taking people against their own will and selling them. And we see this truth captured in the book of Exodus, chapter 21 and verse 16, as the word of God reads, "He who kidnaps a man and sells him or is found in his hand shall surely be put to death." This was a capital offense according to God. In addition to this, slaves were to be treated fairly. They were not supposed to be treated harsh at all. The Bible reads in Colossians chapter 4 and verse 1, "Masters, give your bondservants what is just and fair, knowing that you also have a master in heaven." This was the order of all things, unlike the evil practices that the world adopted. God's ways are always just, but when people choose not to follow the perfect word of God, fallen man does anything. And for those who use the Bible as a tool to enforce slavery by twisting scripture, as well as other devilish means behind the banner of being a Christian, God will deal with them. But their behavior and lies do not eradicate the infallible truth of God's word. Man-made slavery is evil to the core, and as horrific as it was, the Atlantic slave trade was not the only slave trade that had been established by empires throughout the world. And there is no way that any segmented discussion that deals with the story and history of slavery would ever contain enough information to paint the full picture of the complexities that involved the former practice of slave ownership that was indeed an acceptable and evil custom that every nation participated in prior to its supposed abolishment. Many politicians, those unlearned or agenda-minded people, want to make slavery a white man's evil invention that targeted the black man for extermination or to make black people inferior. And sadly, the majority of those in the West, especially here in America, see slavery as such. So instead of slavery being looked at for what it was when it is looked at for who they were and who they enslaved, as long as those who were enslaved were black and those who did it were white. And then we must judge them on the ethical merits of a 21st century global society. And with this ideology firmly planted in the minds of their subjects, politicians can fortify their allegiance with people of color by dangling the reparations carrot, as well as the inclusion of additional IOU gifts in the form of clever social aid packages that will do nothing to advance people of color at all, but will allow those in power to maintain such control while keeping those that they are claiming to help in political slavery. Do you see the game? Dark aspects of history are being utilized to play on the emotions of people of color in particular in order to secure loyalty and votes. And this is not a new game. They're just using different pieces. And as long as the results are the same, the tactic for political slaves will be exploited. Think about it. The U.S. national debt is over $23 trillion. And some social activists are calling for reparations in the amount of $21 trillion. So ask yourselves, who's going to be paying for this? The government? Keep dreaming. Our government is looking for cash. In fact, there are thousands of people across America who have not even received their income tax returns for 2020. So what does that tell you about our ability to fulfill something of this magnitude? This is unrealistic and will never happen. But so long as the minds are under the influence of this nonsense, those who believe in it will never rebel against their masters, therefore remaining loyal political slaves. This political plantation is real, and all of us should be very concerned when the government plans and or gives us money for something that we are clearly not suffering from, nor held back because. So, will you be bought, or will you show that you are truly free? Addressing social and cultural issues, I'm Mac for Faith in Politics.
Thanks, Mac, for that report. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. We hope you enjoyed this week's Faith in Politics. This program exists because of viewers like you. We're the only local political program here in Hawaii with a Christ-centered point of view. And from all of us at Faith in Politics, thank you for your support both financially and prayerfully. If you believe the content we're providing and its importance, please consider partnering with us. For those watching on social platforms such as Rumble or YouTube, please like, subscribe, and of course hit that notification bell. Invite your friends to tune in and watch our program. I'm Brendan Scarborough, and we close this episode with Pastor Jack Hibbs reminding us why a program like Faith in Politics is so important.
Hey, Pastor Jack Hibbs here, and I want to first of all congratulate Faith in Politics and the great work you guys are doing. And here's the reason why, there's a lot of people, especially Christians, and sad to say pastors, who will say that Christians, pastors have no business talking about political issues, which your program, our program together, right, has proven everybody wrong. Your viewership is awesome. It's off the charts. It's fantastic, and it's growing on this topic. The question is, why? The answer is because this is what affects people's lives. And somewhere in our minds, we thought, well, it's best to keep the things that really happen in our life every day separate from church. We'll go to church on Sunday, but we'll live through the insanity of the rest of the week, but then we'll go to church on Sunday. And you guys are awesome watchmen announcing that whatever we teach from the Bible on Sunday should equip our congregations for what they've got to deal with on Monday. School board, PTA, local civics, federal laws, state laws, the issues that govern our businesses, illegitimate taxes, for example, things that are wrong, that are being imposed upon you, things that are being made up by the lords of politics to supersede the will of God in your life. So when somebody says, oh, we should never mix politics and our religion together, I would submit to you, that's impossible. Remember this, God created Israel, the church, right? Marriage and government. That's in the Bible. The problem with government is when God's not invited, man turns it into politics. And that's what you and I are suffering. We're suffering under the lords of politics. What happens is we need to get back to good leadership. And good leadership means that the people in this republic hold the leaders responsible. It is still we the people so long as we have a constitution. So here's what I want to encourage all of you to keep doing at Faith in Politics. Speaking the truth, Bibles open, and addressing the issues, because it is incumbent upon the Christian to hold their elected officials responsible for what they do. They are to be the instruments of righteousness, Romans 13 says. We need to hold them to that standard. We need to get involved like never before. If we don't, then they're going to make rules about our children. They're going to expose our kids to things that are ungodly. And our communities are going to fall apart because we will not enforce laws and we will not do what's right, healthy, and honoring to God. So I want to thank all of you for standing. And please, pastors, get the word out. It's time to stop hiding and engage the culture for Christ until He comes again.
Hey, did you know that Call TV is an app? Well, we do. Have you downloaded it yet? It's filled with awesome content, including exclusive uncut material, and it's easy to download. Even your mom can do it. Simply go to the App Store, search Call TV, hit the download button, and voila! You now have access to inspirational materials that you can watch anywhere. Download the Call TV app today.